Welcome to the Insights to Communicate podcast with Adam Probalski, where market and opinion research come together with public affairs and PR.
Welcome to the podcast, Aaron Templer. Aaron runs a digital marketing and branding firm called 3over4. He's an author, does a lot of cause-based work, but also works for greedy people who want to just make money. Excited to have the conversation, Aaron. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today and the most fun you have in your job.
Oh, cool. That's a fun question. Great way to start. Thanks for having me on, first of all, Adam. It's been fun to communicate with you online, and always great to be, a guest on these podcasts that have so many good thought leaders, and to kind of be in their company is really special. So thanks.
Well,
how I got here, a very circuitous route. I was a musician, actually. I went to a private music school and came back to my home state of Colorado and Denver and got a job in the mailroom working for a software company that did marketing. I was just a musician looking for a day job, ended up deciding that music as a profession wasn't for me. I'm still a very active hobbyist. But just kind of worked my way up through that company and built a career in marketing. So ended up getting an MBA at a business school that I was directing the marketing for, and then launched my own business about 16 or 17 years ago now, called 3over4. We're a brand strategy and digital marketing agency. So kind of an unusual route. It wasn't necessarily the most common one, and it's hard to give people advice on how to build careers in marketing because mine just was a little strange, a little unconventional, I'd say.
I think there's some, actually not some, there's a lot of creativity in the business you're in, digital marketing and branding. So I think somehow having that musical background, creative background probably helps significantly. Maybe it's just how your brain is wired, and maybe it's more functional too. It sounds logical to me, actually.
Yeah, no, for sure. When I first started, I was attracted to the amount of creative folks that were in the field as designers and writers, and there seemed to be some, symbiosis there. But, the more that I sort of got involved, the less that became kind of a common place to share those kinds of passions, and the more strategy really resonated with me. I think creative minds are highly strategic. We see disparate data and want to make sense of it. We're sort of intrigued by that. We want to pull together meaning from a lot of unusual or unseen sources, and that's kind of a strategic way of thinking. So the more that I became in strategic roles in my marketing career, and then certainly now as leading this, founding and leading this agency, that really feeds, I think, the creative side of my brain.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your client base and who you work for. And then naturally that goes into, for my interest, of course, is how does research come into play? How do you do research that actually drives your strategy? Is it focus groups? Is it polling? Is it surveys? And how important is that to the process? And I'll add one thing in there. It seems like we see clients sometimes basically say, hey, you're the evil genius. You don't need to do survey, research, polling, focus groups, right? You're the one that knows the answers. Why would I want to spend extra money on that sort of thing? How does that come into play in your conversation with clients?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I think the research scales for what we do, first of all. So when I get those kinds of questions or answers around not wanting to invest in research, we can at least talk to them about getting some data, which I think is really helpful. But so there's two sides really to the business. One is the brand strategy that I talked about, and we use a lot of research to understand everything from perceptions and creating gap maps around a brand's perception in the marketplace and where they want to move it, to starting from scratch. So if we're launching a new brand and doing naming and tagline work and all of that, we want to understand if what we're thinking resonates with prospective customers or stakeholders. So there's a lot of that kind of need in the branding world, and then we actually, unlike a lot of brand strategy companies, we spend a lot of time internally. So my belief is that the most effective brands are actually managed well from the inside, people who believe and are authentic in the brand and look people in the eye with confidence and both metaphorically and literally, and manage a brand that way. So we spend a lot of time uncovering the beliefs and a lot of that type of energy from internal clients. So there's a lot of kind of one-on-one conversations, interviews there. So we combine the qualitative and the quantitative for sure. We do interviews, but we also will supplement and or have it driven by online surveys where we can get other kinds of data, qualitative data that way. And then on the digital marketing side of our business, we're a full service marketing agency with a lot of digital work, and we use research to understand customer personas and understand journeys and segmentation. I mean, we've done work for a nonprofit actually where they didn't even know how to segment their audience to be able to communicate to them more specifically and more effectively. And so we did that. We figured that out for them, and then created tactical email campaigns and other types of communications for them. So the research on that side is important as well. We'll do it internally if we've got kind of a smaller budget and scope, and we still think that the fit is right for us, to be working with this client. But we've also partnered with research firms when we want to scale it up and do something more large scale and bring in some expertise also that's sort of outside of our domain. So that's what it looks like.
I appreciate that very much. We like it when firms like yours recognize the value of the outside researcher. We also have great appreciation for the fact that sometimes you can do certain things in-house, and sometimes you don't necessarily have the budget for a market research firm or public opinion research firm that can do the bigger project and be more statistically valid, things like that. So we think that give and take is really logical in a lot of situations. So
Sure.
We like that a lot. So do you want to talk about a client or two, either individually or just conceptually, in the last 6 months, project you've loved the most? Whether you don't have to name the individual client, but like what do you love about that project and how they got to you and how they ended up loving what you did for them?
Yeah, sure. The first brand strategy client that comes to mind was a orthopedic veterinary clinic that opened up an office here in Denver, and just some really wonderfully gifted and warm-hearted doctors that were launching this practice. And we spoke with both internally. They wanted us to talk and understand vet techs. There's a lot of turnover in that space, and they wanted to build a brand and a culture that really resonated with the technicians and the support staff that would help them to reduce that kind of turnover. And then also a brand that resonated obviously with the outside world, which is a lot of times veterinarians who are referring work to them, but also patients. So we spent some time talking to a lot of those folks to get some insights, and understood that really the trying to get to that kind of elevated place, right, of a brand that talks about outcomes as opposed to the what they do. And so what we found was these folks, largely dog owners, are just really excited to get back out on the trail with their dog and get their dog active with them again and see their dog in that happy and sort of life affirming way that those kind of companions help us in that way. And that was a common thread throughout everybody. It's why vet techs do their work. It's why veterinarians do their work. And so we came up with a fun brand called Spry Companions, with a logo with a little wagging tail on the Y, and a tagline, or as I prefer to call it, a brand energy line called Get Your Wag Back. And that really seems to work for them. And they've got it on, t-shirts and all kinds of fun stuff. So that was a fun recent one that we did, and used a lot of qualitative research just around interviews and focus groups and that type of thing. And then I think we did not too long ago some branding for a higher ed client one time, and I love this story because it shows how the importance of internal interviews. I was talking with a professor while we were working on some branding work for this business school in California. And they had some repairing to do actually with the community to kind of rebuild a reputation a little bit. So this wasn't a naming or a launch or anything. It was just how do we kind of rebrand for the community. And this professor talked about the teacher scholar model, which is sort of a big deal in academia. You're either a research institution or a teaching one, but then there's a hybrid approach where you kind of do a little bit of both. And this professor said in this interview, people ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm not a teacher, I'm not a researcher, I'm a reacher. And that was just a piece of gold that we wouldn't have found if we didn't do a lot of digging internally. And we built a whole campaign for them around this idea of reach, helping students reach their potential, but also them kind of reaching out to the community to rebuild some of those bridges. So those are a couple of examples that come to mind on the branding side.
I love that. I think it's sometimes hard for people to visualize what the rebranding looks like, what the digital consultant does, because it sounds kind of nebulous. It sounds like a little bit of, okay, we just sit down and we take a sketch and we come up with some ideas. And the idea that you have research behind it to drive it, and you use all your experience you have, and it's not just random thoughts, it's thoughtful work.
Yeah, right.
Is kind of helpful. And kind of giving that illustration, I think, gives people a clearer picture of, okay, what does this really mean? And I think people can then also maybe visualize. You gave an example of the two examples you gave with higher ed and with the world of pets and medicine. And I think people can then take that hopefully and transpose that or move that over to their industry. So that's super helpful. Do you ever find that? Anybody ever show up with you and say, I think I need what you do, but I don't know? Does that ever happen?
Well, I think people that don't know what they don't know come to us with things like, I'm doing all this advertising and email work and social media, and none of it seems to be working. Or somebody will come to me and say, I've got sales reps in the field and they're saying one thing and our website says another thing. And none of it seems to be working together. I just feel like I'm like trying to herd cats or something.
Right.
Those are sort of some telltale signs that they need some strategy work. And so branding is a large part of that. We do everything from positioning to architecture to messaging, large and small scale stuff to help with that. But we also do integrated marketing communications plans, which kind of pull all that together. So in my experience, folks will come to me asking for one thing, but really needing another, and trying to build the trust to have them listen to us, I think is our challenge at that point.
What you just said resonates pretty well with me. The idea of truing up the different disparate parts of how you are presented to the world. I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? You got these random things. You've got these emails. You've got sales reps saying words. You've got a website. You've got maybe a brochure.
Right.
And maybe you've got an opinion leader or, a leader of the organization that's out there talking and giving speeches or posting on social media. And it just doesn't all click together. And so you're saying that you would look at all those different moving parts and to have the important conversations of saying, okay, this doesn't look like it fits into what you're up to or what you're trying to accomplish or how you're trying to make money or advance your agenda. So maybe we're not going to do that anymore, but we're going to bring this content that you're doing on the emails because that's really brilliant. And we're going to promulgate that across the organization. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Right. Yeah, I think it starts with a strong sense of purpose around your brand, which you really need research to talk to folks about how they perceive the organization that we're working with, what the gap is between that and where the company needs to move it for their own business strategy. But yeah, once you sort of true that up, to use your term, then I think the tactics kind of fall in line. We did some research for a nonprofit, understanding, like I think I alluded to, they didn't understand who their market segments were. They had kind of various levels of sponsorship, and they had people who were giving them money, and they had members, and it was all just sort of a hodgepodge of that. And to be able to suss all of that out and really, really kind of untangle it gives them a lot better approach to how to communicate to them. We do that as well. We do their digital communications, and they called it transformational, the ability to really understand who their audience is. And then we kind of tailor the tactics on where those folks are, what they want to hear about, and what resonates with them strongest. So
yeah.
The research side of things really helps with that. And then of course, you combine that with data. So diving into everything from SEO to what's driving traffic, to keywords, to competitive keywords, even in a nonprofit space, looking at other nonprofits, what is driving traffic to their sites and what's most effective from a marketing communication standpoint. You combine all of that and you start to make a lot more sound decisions.
I love it. So, You spent some time, you're a member of the American Marketing Association, you're an instructor. I don't know if you're paid there or not, but regardless, I assume it's not a massive amount of money. It's kind of, to me, probably kind of one of your chances to give back and be part of the industry. What's the value of that? Why do you necessarily spend time with an association for the industry that probably doesn't earn you big dollars versus being out there earning monies with the company? What's the value of pursuing opportunities like that?
Oh, that's a good question. So yeah, the professional training I do through the AMA, adjunct professor work, presenting and speaking, it's not terribly sophisticated, Adam. I like it. It's just kind of fun. And I enjoy, talking with people and spreading ideas and watching those connections kind of spark and happen. I don't have a desire to be the professional speaker guy on tour with a book and all that kind of stuff. I just like to try to spark ideas and I just enjoy it. It's a good marketing tactic for me. Like you'll put a link to my websites on your site and that's good SEO. Who knows? You and I might end up working together someday. I can, use you for research. You might need a brand guy and for a client. So there's always those kinds of professional connections. And with the AMA, that's just been an incredible experience for me. I've volunteered and they've hired me kind of in different capacities, but the most recent involvement I had with them was the president of a national advisory council. I did that I was president for 1 year, but all in all, the volunteer service was about 6 years. And I was a president of the local chapter here. And it's just given me this national network of talent to hire. So that's really important for me to be able to maintain a really strong talent bench. And there's been some business that's come from it, but mostly it's just talent bench. But I got to go back to really, I just like it. And I think that goes to really all of us. What kind of marketing activities do you want to do? Find the thing you like to do and do that, because it'll be a lot more genuine and it won't seem like so much work. So that's my answer there.
I'm a big believer in that. I'm in the same way. Like I enjoy speaking. I enjoy being on panels. I enjoy giving back in an educational way of people in this industry. And so it is fun and it is genuine and it doesn't feel like selling because it's not selling. There's no part of me when I speak on a panel that is trying to sell something, but it's just organic. Like you said, you kind of make these connections and things happen from there. And it's much more fun to do it that way.
Cool. Yeah.
You mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, you don't necessarily want to be an author on tour, but you have written a book. So give us a quick snapshot of what the book is, where am I supposed to buy it, and why am I reading it?
Oh, cool. Thank you for that. It's called Leading in a Social World. Been fortunate enough to win 7 different awards, which was really surprising to me for a kind of debut book. So I'm kind of psyched about that. And it deconstructs our thinking around social media marketing. It doesn't have to be a marketing sort of focus. You can think of it as just involvement with your organization or your brand on social media and what drives value in social constructs. I sort of take down the idea that social media marketing works with a lot of data and research, both market research, but also kind of neurology and how the neuroscience looks at the way we operate when we're in social groups. And I make the pretty strong case, I think, that social media marketing gets rejected by social constructs. And what really drives value in these social groups, including those that are online, whether that's social media or digital teams that you're managing, is social capital. And that's a leadership discipline, not a marketing one. And so you have to think and act like a leader in these constructs to be successful. And so the second half of the book is all about that. So leadership techniques and skills that you can learn and develop to build social capital. And you can check it all out at Aaron Templer. That's ER.com for those of you who want to spell it AR. If you've been, reading what's the book with the Knights of Templar that everybody really loves that Tom Hanks was in the movie of
Da Vinci Code, maybe?
The Da Vinci Code. Yeah, it's Aaron Templer, ER.com/book or just AaronTempler.com and you can navigate there. So thanks for letting me plug that.
No, it's great. I think, insightful, smart information, we all need more of that. And I think specifically, there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of things on social media that don't have a specific strategy behind it and don't have a sense of what the science or the logic or the marketing value is. So I think breaking it down, like you say, is probably a really good way of starting fresh and getting a better perspective on it. All right, let's run to you wake up in the morning. What three apps do you have to look at first? Do you look at your email, or are you one of these people that just like gets up and does yoga and mindfulness and doesn't get to the office until 10 and just drinks I don't know some sort of health crazed thing? What's your program in the morning?
Yeah, mornings are really protected. Actually, Adam, I'm more on the continuum of what you described,
Okay.
of trying to do things that don't have anything to do with work. I'm really creative and awake, and I really like that time to be mine. And if I do work in the morning, it's creative stuff. It's not meetings or emails. It's trying to get some of that good creative work done. But really, I try to protect that a little bit more for things like exercise and yoga and mindfulness, and trying to eat, something that'll give me some good mojo for the rest of the day. So yeah, that's my morning. And then I try to, like I said, save meetings for the afternoon and do all that kind of stuff when the mind is more in management mode and not creating mode. I would say there's, client needs will interrupt that, of course. And so you sort of, when you have your own agency, you got to adjust to what clients need, but that's the goal for sure. I have all notifications always silenced on my phone and my Mac. I feel like I check all of these things enough that I'm not going to miss anything. And I find it just keeps my mind and well-being sort of more even keeled. So that's that. The apps I use are really just related to work. So Asana and Slack for communications, and then all the whole Gmail suite we use as an agency. So I'm in Docs and forums and all that kind of stuff day to day.
Okay, cool. So you kind of went exactly where I wanted to go. So Slack and then Asana, explain how that kind of fits into your business.
Yeah, we use Asana for all of our project management and the entire workflow, for everything, for internal stuff that we do as an agency, but all of our clients as well. I have just a wonderful person who runs that for me. Her name is Paula Lee. She's worked with me for about 6 years and basically is just in charge of all operations and project management. And I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, and I really need people to backstop me for details. And she's invaluable for that. So we use Asana for that. We use Slack for kind of one-off communications. We try to keep all communications that have to do with tasks within Asana, so that the communication and tasks are archived and together. And that's really our primary area of workflow. We've got some other tools that I'm going to forget the name of for, calendar and content calendar, social media calendar, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's in those two tools, and then the Google Workspace suite of tools.
Awesome. Okay, wrap up with words to live by, your mantra, the marching song that runs through your head that keeps you motivated. What do you want to tell the world, or what do you tell yourself?
I guess, Adam, I'm driven by the notion that we are social and creative creatures. And so any type of leadership or team building work or focus and exercises around so-called soft skills that enhance creativity and our ability to connect socially, I think is really important. I think not only is it most effective for working because it's the more kind of sustainable path to be able to motivate and influence others. But it's also more life affirming because it connects to our humanity. So that drives me. That gets me excited. I have this sort of side practice around leadership development, and I'm developing a leadership program for a state of Colorado department, and I've done a lot of this kind of work. And an aha moment I had a long time ago with all the leadership work that I was involved in was that anyone can do it, and that the myths around it being a certain type or a certain style or reserved for the privileged few is really just hiding the fact that the real levers that move people to change are very inclusive, actually. Things like modeling the way. So just, acting like the change you want to see and be authentic around who you are and how you come to be present in a given engagement. And that's super empowering. So I like to talk about that a lot. And I think that there's also intersections between marketing and leadership that aren't exploited nearly enough. I've learned more about influence and how to change people's minds from the leadership discipline than I ever have from the marketing one. And so trying to encourage marketers to spend some time in the leadership discipline is something I'm passionate about as well. So I don't know if that doesn't really fit on a bumper sticker, but there's some mantras for you.
I love it. Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Aaron. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and we'll hope to keep the conversation going.
Adam, I thought of something else.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled to send anyone a free ebook of leading in a social world if they want to sign up for my newsletter.
Oh.
Just use the code Adam and I'll send you a free ebook. And you can sign up on my website, aarontempler.com. There's a newsletter link at the top. And it's all about how to build social capital. It's a leadership newsletter on how to build social capital, very specific ways to build trust and to learn the skills of building social capital.
Very cool. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me on. It was a blast to chat with you.
This has been Insights to Communicate with Adam Probalski, president of the woman and Latina-owned market and opinion research firm, Probalski Research.